So they launched the Strategic Defence Review shortly after being elected last summer. And the idea really is to take a look at the state of the armed forces, assess what the key threats are to the UK over the next 10 years and look at how they need to transform the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and other areas of defence in order to meet those threats. Now, clearly, at the moment, given the situation in Ukraine, the growing threat from Russia, there's a lot of pressure on this and a lot of pressure on the government to increase defence spending, which is clearly a big part of what they need to know for that review. Now, previously, the Prime Minister has said there is a clear ambition for the UK to start spending 3% of GDP on defence in the next Parliament, so that would be by 2034, as long as the economic circumstances allow. But John Healy, the Defence Secretary, has been speaking to The Times, and he seems to be a bit more definite than that. He said he's got no doubt that figure will be met, saying to The Times, in the next Parliament, this country will spend 3% on defence. Goes on to say there will be a certain decade of rising defence spending and that will allow us to plan for the long term. It allows us to deal with the pressures. So there has been a little bit of rowback from sources in government on this, insisting that he's not making a definite commitment, he's just expressing his opinion and his confidence that the UK will be in a position to meet that commitment by 2034. But clearly, I think John Healy here is signalling that he does want to see that increase coming as soon as possible. And that's something that's shared by many in the military. Earlier on Sky, we were speaking to Colonel Bob Stewart, a former Tory MP, who says he's been calling for this kind of increase in defence spending for some time, given the state of the armed forces, and he'd like to see it going further.
It should be more. I mean, frankly, if we had to face a war, no one would give a damn about what percentage it is. We just chuck it. In 1939, we just chucked the entire economy onto a war footing. We don't want that to happen. The best way to avoid war is to prepare for it. The way to prepare for it is to pay for it.
Now, it was in February that Sir Keir Starmer announced that the current level of defence spending, which is 2.3%, would be increasing to 2.5% of GDP by 2027. Now, that's really under pressure from Donald Trump and the White House, arguing that European nations need to take up more of the burden of their own security. In order to pay for that, he's ended up cutting international development funding, which has led to the resignation of one of his ministers, Annalise Dodds. So it's a politically difficult area. There are always calls for more defence spending, particularly in an increasingly uncertain world, but there are clearly big questions about how to pay for it at a time when government spending is already very tightly controlled. We know all about Rachel Reeves's fiscal rules and the calls on the government to put more money into winter fuel payments and scrapping the two-child benefit cap and not going as far on their welfare cuts as they're planning. So clearly there are many open questions around this. In terms of what we know about the Strategic Defence Review when it's going to be published tomorrow, we have had a few trails ahead of time from the government on a few elements of it. So we're told they're going to put another £1.5 billion into improving housing for military families. That's a big bid to try and improve recruitment and retention, and also a lot of money being put into cyber warfare as well in future.